All right.
Okay, we're live there. All right.
All right.
Okay,
Meshech
there's
Bison is
that.
speaking. Here in
Okay,
Richmond
took
is
care of
speaking.
that.
Here
All
in
right,
Richmond, Meshech Bison is speaking.
here we
Meshech Bison
go.
is speaking. Here in Richmond is speaking. Meshech Bison is speaking.
Jeez.
Meshech Bison is
Okay,
speaking.
Mishek,
Here in Richmond,
here we
Meshech
go. I'm
Bison is
ready to start the
Meshech
audio
Bison is speaking.
in three,
Here
in
in Richmond is
two,
speaking.
and
Meshech
one.
Bison is speaking. Here in Richmond is speaking.
Welcome
Meshech
back,
Bison is
everyone,
speaking.
to
Here in
another
Richmond
exciting
is
episode of Aaron's
Here in
Opinion,
Richmond is
the
speaking.
podcast for
Meshech
blind
Bison.
people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. We are definitely
Here
going over to the other side of the universe today to speak with
in
someone
Richmond
who
is
has
speaking.
known of us for a very good while. His name is Misheck,
Here in Richmond
and
is
he
speaking.
joins us
Meshech
from
Bison is speaking.
Malawi. As I
Audio
said,
sources
this is probably the
speakerphone.
first time
Stop.
that we've ever
Button.
had someone from Malawi on Aaron's Opinion. I think it definitely is. And this might be one of the first times that anyone from Malawi has been on a podcast. So, Mishek, it is such an honor to have you on the show. What I would like you to talk about over the next hour or so is that, first of all, I want you to talk about basically your life, your origin story, the whole, that whole thing, that whole backstory, and then how it led up to this project that you would like to do regarding to sports and getting blind people and people with disabilities active and involved in sports in Malawi. So, Mishek, your hour starts right now. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for allowing me onto this platform. Yeah, as it has been put by our host, my name is Meshech Bison, a completely blind, creative, innovative, and of course, a loving dad of two daughters. Why not? Yeah, currently working on my inclusive and innovative sport project that's aiming to bridge the gap between people living with blindness and their sighted peers, yet to be called blind hunters catch. Yeah, that's going to be my trademark because, I strongly believe that we are all born hunters, hunting for good love, good financial statuses, and why not good peace of mind? So, yeah. And then for one to be a good hunter, they required to be able to make some catch. And that requires a degree of focusness. So being blind, I look at it as an intense focus. So to sum it all up, I called this sport innovation Blind Hunters Catch. That's a little bit of myself and my project.
And that is really incredible. So many people here around the Aaron's Opinion family are familiar with many of our guests and many of our listeners from South Africa. We've had listeners from many countries around the continent of Africa, luckily, thanks to God for that. But as I was saying, we've never had anyone from Malawi, and most people or many people around the world may in fact have never heard of Malawi. So why didn't you kind of break it down a little bit? So why don't you tell people a little bit about Malawi, about the country a little, and then you really dig into your blindness, how you became blind, schooling, all of those types of things that led up to where you are today. In my case, I was born blind with glaucoma and a congenital heart defect. So what about you? Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Malawi is quite a beautiful country. Beautiful everything, beautiful this and that. Beautiful women, beautiful nature. We've got beautiful Lake Malawi, whereby the water there is fresh, pure and fresh. So for that, we've got some fresh, nice fish there called chambo. If you want to come to Malawi, oh, you're most welcome. I'm going to take you along those beaches with beautiful lodge, whereby we can do some country living there. Yeah, I can't wait for you to come along with me. And we've got beautiful mountains there. mountain mulanje. Yeah, we've got beautiful nature and of course, very respective people, very respective and of course, hardworking people, which is exactly why this hardworking spirit took me across the borders whilst I still had my eyesight. So I had to travel to South Africa. A reason being that my education status is so poor because I'm just a holder of the junior certificate of education. But having traveled to South Africa gained me with a couple of experiences in terms of it allowed me to be exposed to the, if you can compare South Africa and Malawi in terms of education expertise, South Africa is way higher. So that allowed me chances to kind of experience life more specifically, technically, at a higher degree to the extent because of my good communication skill, they kept saying that I can be able to communicate well. I was close with lots of white people. Point of apology, I'm not being a racist. We are all
No,
blue, isn't
no
it?
worries. So by the way, right there, so it's totally fine. By the way, I have been to East Patine and I have traveled all over different parts of the world. So I'm very cognizant and aware of that fact, but it does not bother me in the slightest. And you'll find that after this episode, when you get added to my private WhatsApp group and all the wonderful communities that we have in the Aaron's Opinion community, there's a lot of South Africans and people from Gambia and people from like all the countries. So that's totally fine. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Malawi people are welcome here at Aaron's Opinion. But you need to know that if you're in my groups, you're gonna talk to a lot of people from South Africa. So Aaron's Opinion is a major following, luckily in South Africa, Gambia, Tunisia, up in the north, up in the Maghreb region as well. So yes, that's fine. Please continue.
All right, thank you. And so having that opportunity to work amongst the people with those higher ranks, it exposed me to good learningship of technical jobs. In this case, because I was born from a father who was passionate about construction. He was in construction, my late father. So I've got that DNA, that blood type, like whereby I could just adopt this and that. So um, I was trained to be an electrician and plumbing because I got involved in a bigger construction company. One of the bosses they used to give me some work, and after some years, I kind of grew to the extent I could hold my own job. They could give me um, subcontracts to manage when he's got excess jobs. And I carried on that for up to 10 years. And throughout, I was learning a lot. And one of the elements that I suspect it got me bad is because I did not really care much about safety. I suspected that because after years, I started experiencing problems with my eyes, to the extent it got to the eye blurring. And then it exaggerated to the what they called it retinal detachment, whereby my eyes were like inflamming and then, of course, paining a lot. Yeah, that went on, and yeah, unfortunately or fortunate enough, doctors had to start putting their hands onto my eyes. That's undergoing different kind of operations after a long period of trying to assess what was causing that. Well, I guess some believe that there was some degree of witchcraft. Don't forget Africa, eh? It's Africa. So it's a mixture of this and that. But I thank God he did not allow anything to affect my life, my brain. So here I am, I'm talking. I don't have the visual, but I thank God I've got life and the brains that can carry me on.
Yeah, and that's very important. We've spoken to many people who have had this same experience where you lose your vision as a teenager, maybe, and it becomes very difficult because if you do not have the right doctors in your country, if it's difficult to get the right medical care, it becomes an uphill battle to restore vision and to maintain vision. So, yeah, this is an important matter. So, when do you suppose you became fully blind?
I last seen the world on the 26th of August 2019. I remember I was coming from my shop, from the shop whereby they sell feeds for animals. With my car, I had bought some 4 bags, that's 200 kgs of chicken feeds. I was driving to my house, and then by that time, I had severe degree loss of eyesight to my right hand eye. So I couldn't see in there. I only had my left eye, which was also sometimes becoming blurry. But on that day, it just kind of like, when you're closing a window curtain, it just kind of slide to the dark and then just being left with like 10% of sight. So I went back home because like I had my younger brother with me. He took over the driving seat. And then we went back home. I realized I was in severe trouble. I couldn't be able to move around as I used to. And after a couple of days, even that 10 degree went. And then I was like, geez, oh, my wife was crying, my baby was crying, saying that daddy could walk. And then we holding in my hand. And then, yeah, I cried. It was terrifying. But anyway, I've always my God with me. Um, Little by little, we managed to begin to like putting up with that, with some people encouraging, giving advices. So we had to sell all our belonging because I was there, but I didn't have the citizenship. So every now and again, I had to pay for my being there, renew this and that. And I had a couple of chickens. I was rearing chickens, broilers. So all that came as a shock, And then my wife was terrified as well. She was shocked. She was crying. And then she couldn't manage the household. So we had to plan our way back to Malawi. So by then it was me, my wife, and my firstborn. So I've got 2 kids, like I said. So here we are. We began a new life, in a new world, I can say so. And then the most difficult, most of part of that is that was 2019. I completely lost my eyesight, and then came 2020. That's when the COVID era struck through. So it was like it just came to exaggerate things. When I was trying to recap, like, and then something is coming in my way. You're so up to date, economically affected, this and that. And of course, I lost most of my investment and income because most of my investments I had to resell in trying to counter my period. All those medical operations, this and that were costing me money. So yeah, come COVID era again, so economically, it affected me severely to the extent that, it's very difficult to put up with. But drawing back from my work experiences, I'm able to use computers, no problem. I can type, can read, I can balance my sheets on my laptop. I can make use of the Android phone, smartphones, no problems. That's what has helped me a lot to work out and come up with my inclusive and innovative sport project, which involves a lot of strategic thinking, personal development, and of course, community coming together.
Beautiful. Super cool. Great. So you said that when you were getting these surgeries, you said that you were not a citizen. I think I missed something. So where did you travel outside of Malawi to get these surgeries on your eye?
Um, what happened was that when I traveled from Malawi to go to South Africa,
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
oh, I see. I didn't quite understand that you went to South Africa to get the surgery. I didn't quite. Okay, but so in other words, you went to South Africa to get the surgery, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
had traveled to South Africa. That's where I've done most of my work. So I stayed there for quite a long time. I could come here every year for holiday, 2 years for holiday. I mean, after 2 years or 1 year, like once I get a tangible project, once I get money, we could travel back to Malawi. So I spend most of my time in South Africa. So most of the medication was done there in South Africa. Not much has been done here because even right here, there in South Africa, the medical professionals took me as a case, my situation as a case. They could come to my house, take me to the hospital in Fridays. They called a multiple of professionals to come and assess. Everyone was coming to examine me to say, what's exactly is triggering all this situation? Because it was really uh, uh, driving us crazy because they were trying to work out the cause of that. That's when we started believe to say, oh, let's not forget that we are in Africa. Maybe some cockroaches are playing around with us. Do you know the cockroaches? Some degree of witchcraft. We still believe in that, you know?
Yes. Yes. Many South Africans have talked to me about that as well. Yes.
Yeah, so that like put us to the dilemma because two of the professional practitioners, medical practitioners, told me that no, Mishek, we're not going to operate into your eyes, but we are going to give you a provision, like say 6 months, because we want to dig more and find out what went wrong, what's triggering all this. So I used to go there, visit, come back. When they call me, I used to go there until one day, one of my bosses was like, you know what? Your condition is worsening. Maybe they're not treating you well for whatsoever the reasons. Can I take you to a private doctor? I said, if that is going to help, then I can't wait. I'm in trouble. When we went there, I'm not gonna mention the doctor because I'm not striking on him. No, I don't want to do that. But when we went there, the first thing he did when he saw me, he was like, no, 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 no. This condition is exaggerating. They were supposed to do this operation earlier. So I'm going to book you in, like you must come for operation in 7 days. And that triggered all the severe degrees because after that operation, oh, it was pain and pain and pain. And every time you go back to for a medical checkup to see the doctor, it was costing money and money. And you know, medical is expensive when you do not have insurance. So yeah, I had to go through all those moments, and that pain did not stop until today, when the doctor told me that you are living in a secondary stage of glaucoma. So here I am. Yeah, sometimes I do experience those pains, and then sometimes they go away, just on and off like that.
Right. Sure. I take eye drops for my glaucoma. Do you take eye drops?
Yeah, I do take eye drops. Uh, it's just that good medications here are a little bit expensive, you know, like for a man like me who do not have income. And then sometimes you get to the point whereby you need to get your medication. And then at the same time, the kids are calling daddy, hey, I need something, yeah, the family, So I do take medication, but I must admit sometimes I'm reckless, like due to some financial statuses. If you want to take good medications here in Malawi, it's gonna cost you an arm and egg and a leg, eh? So yeah, I do take eye drops sometimes, but most of the times I only take pills, painkillers. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So you do the best. So the answer is you do the best, you do the best you can with your glaucoma. You manage it the way you can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Aaron. Yeah, but a little by little, I'm putting up with it. I'm learning each and every day. I'm learning something new. Yeah, making new friends, and
Sure.
yeah,
So I think it's really telling and really interesting that you're, so interested in sports, right? So how did you become so interested in sports? Were you always interested in sports? And what can you tell me about sports in Malawi?
yeah. This is fascinating, because never in my life I've been in sports. No, I'm a supporter of Chelsea Football Club. Yeah, I'm a big fan of football, but I've never been involved in football myself. But having learned a lot of things with disability, it brought me to that. So there is a degree funny of my creativity that's in my innovation, in my sport innovation, whereby when you're blind, sometimes one can come and say, "Oh, you've got a cup of coffee here." If they don't attach that cup of coffee to you, it's gonna cost you a couple of seconds to scratch the ground to get to that cup. So, like sometimes when I go out my house, say I wanna go behind the house, I know that I normally have my slip-ons on the stoop, on the veranda. So if somebody just shifts that to some point, it doesn't matter how long, it drives me crazy. And then when I come back, and then I'll keep scratching the floor, yet the slip-ons are there. And then in the first time, people used to laugh because I live in the locations. People used to laugh. And right inside my house, my daughter used to laugh at me when I'm scratching the ground looking for something, when I'm looking for my phone. My daughter would be like, "Daddy, what are you looking for?" I say, "My phone." I said, "Yeah, and your phone is right there. It's looking at you." I said, "Jeez, I can't see it." So that brought me some degree of fun. And then I was like, "Geez, why cannot I make use of this funny and interpret it into something tangible?" Right? So um, that's when something struck my mind to say, let me take this concept and put it into context and give it description, rules, and stuff. That's when this idea of blind hunters catch sport project came into my mind. So like for 2 3 years, I've been working on to developing and testing that. Up to date, I've got this innovative and inclusive sport project, so-called Blind Hunters Catch, much, much, much more. Drawing from my past work experience, construction involves a lot of technical capabilities, measuring volumes, sizes, and positioning of things, getting angles right, shapes. Yeah, I'm highly experienced in that. So my background has helped me, yeah, to come up to what I am now.
Wow. Wow. So I think what I'm hearing, which is incredibly fascinating and good, and what I want to hear from any guest here at Aaron's Opinion, is that you recognize your blindness, you accept your blindness, for the even though it's not the best thing that's ever happened to you, you accept it, and then you've turned it around and just sort of used it as a reason to be successful, to find something that you enjoy that encourages you to be successful. Is that true?
That's correct, Aaron. That's correct.
Hmm.
When
Wow.
all can see in the world is darkness, then darkness becomes a raw material for you to make use and produce something, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely. It's just most people do not have that level of motivation that you do. So I think that's really, really incredible. All right. So, well, first of all, in Malawi society, like, do children play football? Do children play sports a lot? Do most Malawi children grow up with sports to begin with?
Yes, they do. Oh, you wouldn't want to ask me that every evening, because like I said, I live in the location. So at my house, it's like a three-way crossing point, a T-junction. So kids after school, they'll come and gather there. They'll start playing football and they make noise. Sometimes I can't even concentrate on my talkback, on my laptop, and then that'll
Oh,
put on earphones. So
that's
yes, they
wonderful.
love sports.
I think that's wonderful. I think that in American society, children don't do sports anymore. They just sit around and are unhappy. And what I'm hearing is that in your country, in Malawi, people get up and do stuff. And I think that's great. Yeah. So that's what I'm picturing, a country where people get up and do things and are active, right? And go outside and interact with each other, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they do
Very
that.
good. Well, that's really good. That's super good. So yeah, I mean, what can you tell me about the education system in Malawi? Like how does that work?
Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. Our education system, I must be honest here, to my perspective, it's backwards. It's poor, I must say. Number one, poor on the basis that it's expensive because there is a huge number of girls, young youth, who can't pursue with their education because of lack of money. Even my own sister's children, sometimes I do cry sitting down here, because I am an uncle to them. My outage to South Africa used to help them. I could provide for them, the excess money I could get. Now I can't provide them. I've got two children of my sister who couldn't write the Malawi National Certificate of Education because our education, number one, is so expensive comparing to our economic statuses. And our like we need to be I don't know, reformed. Our education needs to be reformed because when somebody goes to school, in their mentality, all they know is that let me finish school and get employed. They cannot be, they're not taught to be creative. So in one way or the other, our education is poor because even the quality of the teachers is very, very poor. So our education is not easy to attain your goal.
Hmm. Right, definitely. Yeah, I do see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. And are do the schools teach in well by the way so you know that I speak English and French. Je parle français, so I love being a bilingual person and I love talking about languages. So how many languages do you speak and how many languages are there in Malawi?
Yeah, the common ones, the well-known ones are the four ones. So that's the Yao that comes from the um, eastern part of Malawi, and then we've got the basic one. We call it Chichewa. Sometimes it can be called Nyanja because it's also spoken in Zambia. That's in the central region. That dominated the central region, but it outspread to the other regions. And then the third one is what we call it Tumbuka. That resembles a little bit with isiZulu from South Africa. That is found in the northern part of Malawi. And of course, the last well-known one, we call it Lomwe. That is at the southern part of Malawi, whereby it demarcates with Mozambique. So that language is also partially spoken in the other side of the Mozambique where we are demarcating with. So yeah, 4 main well-known languages, but there's more. There's more, you know.
Sure, sure. There could even be hundreds. It's just you only speak the languages that you speak, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You're right there because my traveling to South Africa also made me like to kind of experience South African languages, which are um, mixed up with some other foreign languages. You know, there's lots of people that migrate to South Africa. So due to their failure to learn South African languages, there is some languages that comes in between South African languages and foreign languages. Like they call it, um, what do they call it? It's a funny one whereby white people can speak it, black people can speak it. Doesn't matter where you're coming from, you can speak it. They call it Fanikalo. So it's a combination of English, Chichewa, isiZulu, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So it's happening again here in Malawi with this new generation, you know, with the high degree of migration and change of environment. Yeah, so languages are being born every day. Like, yeah, we can talk and talk. There is numerous of them. Yeah.
And what language do you speak at home, mainly?
I speak Chichewa or Nyanja.
Okay, cool. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. That's really incredible. So, but the schools, when you go to school though, what language do the teachers instruct in at school in Malawi?
That's a very good question, Aaron. That is one of the problems which is exaggerating our education to go down and down. Because from grade 5, there are strictly to be English spoken to children, but they don't because teachers themselves were not taught to be English spoken. They fail to speak English, so they can't teach English. That is a huge problem. But to my surprise, when it comes to examination from grade 5, it's all strictly English, all subjects except the language that's local, Chichewa. There is one subject which is written in Chichewa, in mother tongue. The rest are English, yet teachers themselves, they can't speak English. You must try and explore. Lots of people, plenty, they cannot be able to speak proper English. English is the problem. So yeah, you will find out that 3/4 of the schools, including at the high schools and tertiary colleges, they're still teaching in Chichewa, but comes examination, it's all English,
Mm-hmm.
English, English.
Mm-hmm.
So that triggers huge problems because,
So
hey,
what it comes down to, and sadly, which is this is unfortunately, this is not just a problem in Malawi. This is a
mhm,
problem in a lot of countries on the continent of Africa. That if you are not, if you are not educated in English or French, or in some cases even, German a couple times, if you are not educated in the language of the colonial power of the past, then you cannot access the higher education, even if you actually should be going to a university. So this is a big problem. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it is indeed. Unfortunately, most of the education materials talk about um, topics, discoveries, whatever. They come from foreign countries whereby, yeah, you will be forced to learn in English. You do not have a choice unless you must start developing your own things, which is not so easy. So it's just a matter of getting right teachers, professionals. That must mean you must pay them professionally because you cannot take a professional teacher and pay them peanut. Of course, they'll run away. So that also comes from the poor economic statuses. You cannot afford paying professional teachers to teach your kids professionally. and that leaves us with that problem whereby unqualified, I would use that term to say unqualified personnels are found to be employed as teachers. So that is huge problem.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. This is a big problem in a lot of countries, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so in Malawi now, are you living in like a big town, like the capital city, or like what is the how would you paint the picture for us at home here of the environment where you live?
Oh, the environment itself, I would say it's conducive. You wouldn't believe it, Aaron, to say Malawi is one of the countries whereby the power of purchase is so good to the extent that the little money you've got can be used to buy tangible things. But the huge problem becomes that there is nowhere to get that money. Money does not circulate enough. This country is not so industrialized. So there is a huge problem of money. Yet when you get that little money, yeah, you can buy a little bit of this and that. That used to be the case though some years ago. Unlike now when everything is upside down, things have gone like 4 times expensive. It's quite difficult to quote or to put price onto something, this and that. But to put all that into context, the environment is so good because talk about the food. Most of the food that we eat mostly is non-processed. You understand what I mean? Because we rely much on agriculture. So yeah, when you've got your money, like myself, I'm forced to like manage at least one piece of land. We do cultivate maize. So at the end of the year, I must make sure that I've got at least a couple of bags of say rice or maize. If I cannot be able to cultivate, I must have money to buy those things so that yeah, we've got the basic food, and then we can struggle and suffer for just some little things, you know. So in generally, the environment is good, but money is a huge problem. And wherever there is no money, you know what happens, Aaron. There is going to be theft, prostitution, you know, inequalities, this and that, high death rates, diseases that could have been prevented, you know. So the environment is good, but poor economic status brings it to the bad status, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. But are you living in like the capital city?
Yes, I'm living right in the capital city. If I had my eyes with me, I wouldn't bother but walking my way to the CBD. That's not far away. I'm living right on the CBD of capital city of Malawi.
Very good. And what is the capital in Malawi there?
Lilongwe.
Okay, very good. And what can you tell me, like, or what can you tell us about the city? You know what, yeah. Well, how would you describe that city?
It's quite beautiful. It's a nice city, but not well, not fully developed. It's still being developed. So it's like very nice because it's a city whereby you can move around, no much safety. Yeah, of course, you need to take some measures because you don't want to risk yourself. Like more specifically, with these days, people do not have money, businesses have gone down. So we're beginning to experience those degrees of theft. You know, a lot of people are becoming thieves never before, but it's quite a beautiful country. I mean, beautiful city. Yeah, there is still a lot of opportunities. Like there's a lot of opportunities whereby if one can have their capital, you can develop a nice and tangible business. Yeah, our city is very nice and beautiful. Yeah.
All right, very good, very good. So let's drift back to the sports section. So I understand we were talking a couple days back on over on the WhatsApp, you know.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot in setting up this whole like program, this whole sports program, this blind hunting catch. So what is the game like? What is the program like? How does it work?
All right. So, I drew on the basis whereby, if you're familiar with the Cartesian plan, whereby it's like I drew from the concept to say if you are given X and Y coordinates on a certain plane, on a certain feature, you should be able to work out and find any given position given the X and Y coordinates. So what I did is that I just made that Cartesian plane to be a tactile lot, but at a very large scale and different levels, and of course different sections to make sure that players do not come into contact. So players are all blindfolded, just to make sure that we all have the same and equal degree of blindness, and that also allows the sighted community to be blindfolded. Then at the end of the day, we are all blind. So we stand there on the playfield. We are given the X and Y coordinates onto where the objects have been placed. So there is equipment that I developed that we give players at hand. As you know that blind people feels comfortable when they've got their white stick at hand. So I just developed that white stick more to make it usable in this play field. So players, once they're given the X and Y coordinates of the objects that have been placed there, right in their blindness, they must be able to navigate around that play field. And this is quite a big play field because it measures 32 meters by 22 meters. So with all the different levels sectioned in there, players are capable to navigate around and retrieve all the objects. In this case, it's going to be 12 objects for each player. And whosoever the player that finishes collecting all those 12 objects in a list of the time earns a point to their team. So there's going to be two teams, one team, 6 people, and so the other. But players take turns sending one player at a time to do that work to earn them a point. So points are collected and the time is taken to the board to make sure that by the end of the play, we work out who got the most of the catches and of course, how long did they take them. So whichever the team that scores most of the catches in the list of the time, they are given what we call it seventh catch to indicate fulfillment or they have achieved the goal. So again, we work out in the videos to say who managed to collect all the 12 objects the faster than the others. That one also must be awarded the what I called it cheaters award for being faster in their hunting ship. So that is just a brief of the project that I'm working on. But to my
Hmm. Hmm.
to my love,
So what are these? Right, what are these objects that they're searching for in this feet on the field? What are they searching for?
because this used to be just a dream, and then I brought it to the paper, and by the time I wanted to execute it, it was during this COVID period. So on the paperwork, I just put it to say these are going to be objects of different sizes that's representing level 1, level 2, level 3. To say on level 1, objects are going to be bigger, level 2, biggest, and then, like bigger, biggest. But then I'm using just objects. In this case, I'm using water jugs, like, water kettle, something like 2 liter
Okay.
as my, as my
Right.
biggest object. And then I go like smaller cups, and then I go like smallest object, like a golf. Reason being that I have not been able to kind of determine which objects must be really used because the chain of supply was so poor. So we couldn't get proper objects and I couldn't afford to get everything that I wanted. But at least I managed to get these cups, jugs, and stuff just for the sake of trying out if my deer was workable then.
Right, right. That's true. So I
Yeah.
suppose, so I guess when you're walking around on the field, you have to like use your cane to figure out where the objects are hidden in like in the grass, right?
Yes, you use your cane, but there is some tactile things that are placed on the ground in form of cartesian plants. So wherever you want to navigate to, you will always find tactile objects with tactile marks. So from the center, you go left, there is 5 meters. So there is a mark number 1, which is tactile. You can feel that with your stick up to mark number 5. And so is the other left side and back and forth like that. So wherever you navigate, it's tactile. So it's very easy to navigate, yet challenging. And yeah.
So you've set up a tactile path for people to like walk on. So there's
Yeah.
good traction. Okay. Wow. And then I guess the objects are kind of placed along the path at different strategic positions, right?
Yes,
Mm.
that's exactly.
Now, who sets the objects up? How do you tell where to place the objects? How does that work?
All right, so you've got different groups of people working together in this case, which is the ideal of this development. So you're going to have one team, and then on the other side, you are going to have another team, and of course, you're going to have officials. So what happens is that the officials are going to be 3, a referee and his 2 assistants. So they determine the X and Y coordinates onto where these objects must be placed. And then the assistant referees goes and place those objects. Once that is ready, the referee is going to blow the whistle to mark the commencement of the event. So yeah, just like that. And then yeah, that's how it functions. And then these assistant
Wow.
referees, they just make sure that players are safe. They don't come into contact. Anyway, they cannot because the sections are widely separated. But in case, just to make sure that players are safe, because safety is paramount, when you're working with people with disabilities and in as far as inclusion is concerned.
Well, that's true. Well, that's this is really fascinating. So you're someone that really has a mind of strategy. I can really tell, right?
Yeah. Strategic thinking is important, eh?
Yeah, I just wish that more other Americans would listen to this episode and start thinking strategically because you are very, very wise and very right to recognize this and to take time to actually think through this whole event and this whole game, to be able to set this up. But that's incredibly interesting.
Yeah, Aaron, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite interesting. I
So
love it.
And then I guess it could become quite competitive because you could get different schools or different teams to send their best hunters or I mean it's what the other sport that you probably know a lot about and have an admiration for is orienteering, which is similar to this, where you're given a map and coordinates and you need to navigate. So you're very interested in orienteering. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is it. That is it. And I want to learn more about that one you are talking about. Is it inclusive also?
I don't know, but I'm sure it probably is. But considering that you've already invented the game, why don't you invent inclusive orienteering? I think you basically already invented it with your own beautiful sport. Wow. I gotta say, so what is preventing this sport from being played in other countries, and what are some other obstacles that you would like to solve? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very good question. People living with blindness, more
Mm-hmm.
specifically here in Africa, are being looked down at. People
Mm-hmm.
think that people with disabilities cannot be able to do anything tangible, and that is a problem. So wherever you try and go to ask for help and support, because like I said, I am not employed, I'm not doing any business. I cannot be able to take this any far on my own. There is a need for help and support, but I haven't got anyone yet. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting some financial support, any sort of help I can say, so that I must be able to like create proper paperwork for this and create presentable events because it cost me money to mobilize volunteers, my church members, community members to kind of yeah, bring all this to the ground and buy water, buy food for them because it's quite expensive. So financial help and support would be the most important elements that is hindering me a lot to pursue and go ahead with this.
Right, right. Well, that's interesting. As we discussed on a professional note, Aaron's opinion does not provide financial support, but if a listener wants to help, would there be a way for a listener to help if they wanted to?
Oh yes, and I can't wait. Oh yes.
And how would they actually help you?
Um, they can catch up with me on via my email address, which Aaron Opinion can be able to provide, and they can also catch me on my mobile number. That's which Aaron Opinion would be able also to provide, I guess. And they can also catch me on Facebook, Meshech Bison Meshech Bison. Yeah, those are the most communicatable platforms that I can make use of.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's very good. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk about you writing up your description for the episode and all of that. But that's totally doable and totally fine. And hopefully someone from the audience will get in touch with you and would be able to help. But I think the first thing in getting the help is, of course, recognizing the what you're doing and telling people about it and getting some interest in that. So yeah, that is all all really well done. I think that you're really doing the right thing in life, and I think you're really on the up and up, as we say. So I think you have a lot to be proud of, and I think that's incredibly creative. Your creativity and your wisdom and your strategy, your strategic mind will certainly be loved here in the Aaron's Opinion community in many projects and in many different things that we do all over the world. So that's really well done, man. Really good. I gotta say, really good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just purely curious, how did you even find out? I forget now. How did you find out about Aaron's opinion in the first place?
Oh, I must be so thankful to the growing technology. One, with my disability, it has allowed me some accessibility onto devices. And in short, I can say via social media, I saw that, oh, this is a beautiful platform that I must engage myself with. So I saw your link onto one of the groups, and then somebody was like, yes, here's the link. Yeah, they were discussing it. And then I had to press the link. And then there we go. I bumped into you. So thank you very much to the social media. And
You are
you are
so you know what? You are so appreciative. I can tell that you really appreciate this privilege of being able to participate on a podcast and being able to share your story with not just me, but everybody around the world who tunes in. So this is wonderful, man. Well, well, Meshech, I am 100% sure that you definitely have a couple questions for Aaron Richmond. I'm sure there's things you want to know. So, what are some questions you really want to ask me to really, as I like to say, to really get under my skin, to really make me sweat, to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster? What do you want to know?
Oh yes, thank you for that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, Aaron. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I know that this platform can do more to help me overcoming my challenges throughout this project, and I know that this project really, Aaron, is gonna help me to take me far. Like I would like you to get me exposed to the wider world community and get my story being known and well told so that this dream of mine does not just die. I can't wait to stand one day on the platform and say, I am not just the creator, but the implementer of this massive, inclusive, and innovative sport project. Something for the first time coming from the blind man like me that's going to put the blind community on the map to say disability is not inability. We too can be able to, and all that takes Aaron's opinion to be able to expose it. So that's a mission that you've got at hand, Aaron.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's well, all wonderful. But I mean, I'm sure there's questions that you want to ask me. I mean, what do you want to know about me? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I heard you mentioned it, say you were born blind. And
Correct.
at some point, you mentioned that you were going to attend some work, some job. I mean, what sort of job do you do? How do you manage to cope up with that kind of job that you're doing, accessibility wise? And what's your
Well,
experience in a
my experience
community?
has been good. In the United States, we have a lot of companies that you can work for online. So I'm an English teacher. I teach English as a second language. And like I said, I'm very linguistic. I love talking about languages and helping people to acquire the English language. And I'm really fascinated by language acquisition. So that's like my strategy. That's my thing in life is language acquisition. But
All right.
yes, mm-hmm.
All right.
We have a lot of online resources that make it a lot easier to work from home and to work in an online environment. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, all right. So you can, I think, get me connected so that I must learn and become somebody. I must work online, I think, but I must get somebody to finance me first. And the other question to you is, what's your experience with your disability and the community there in the US? Surely it must be different from Africa. What's your experience with your
It is
disability?
different. My experience, you need to be a good you're a great podcaster yourself. The way you ask questions, you're good at it, man. You need to get into podcasting. Well, my experience has been different from yours, but my experience has been similar to yours. Even in America, there are always ignorant people and people who don't want you because you have a disability. Even in America, that happens. So
Oh,
certainly it's easier, but we still have a lot of challenges in America, and we still have a long way to go. Hmm.
okay. Oh, I didn't know that in America. I wouldn't expect you to experience that in America because that is my
Hmm.
second world that I hope to live in. Eh?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay, good. Good. All right.
All
All right.
right.
Well, very good. Well, I think it's been an incredible, absolutely incredible episode. and things like that. So again, you guys can click the link in the description to learn more about Misheck and all the great stuff that he's doing. So Misheck, do you know by any chance? Let's see. Do you know how we end an episode of Aaron's Opinion? Do you know what our slogan is that we say?
I didn't know that. I don't know.
That's totally okay. We say, Misheck, thank you for joining us. And we say, take care, be well, and help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. For those of you still surviving and watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Like the video, comment below, tickle the bell notification to know when we go live next, right here on YouTube. Misheck, thank you for joining me. Thanks for staying up all night over there in Malawi to help educate the world about accessible sports and things like that. It's all very fascinating. We need to get going, and we'll be in touch soon. But of course, thank you and be well. Keep podcasting, everybody. Help one person today. Help one.